Alright, so today I'm going to be summarizing the Ickabog chapters 16 through 20. So like I say in all of my summaries, if you haven't already watched chapters 1 through 5 summary, chapters 6 through 10 summary, and chapters 11 through 15 summary, I would highly recommend you do that because those are the leading chapters to this summary that I'm going to be showing you guys today. So before I start this video, also, if you guys aren't already subscribed to my channel, I would highly recommend you do so because I post 2 to 3 times a week. Be sure to turn on post notifications, be sure to like this video. Also, I make videos about tech, tutorials, and lifestyle videos, so if you like that sort of content, then be sure to subscribe. I know this is out of the norm, but this is a book that I really just do enjoy. It's by J.K. Rowling. So also, last thing, before I start this summary, I just wanted to say that if I'm looking to the side, if I'm looking to my right side, I just have notes over here, and I'm reading off of them because I took 5 pages of notes. I will have them linked in the description down below, so you guys can find them on too. So let's start off with chapter 16. So the chapter starts off with Spittleworth accusing Roach for not letting Mrs. Beamish know that Mr. Beamish had died. Roach just says that he was too busy thinking about a jeweled sword all the way home. Spittleworth, without the king knowing, asks Roach to bring Mrs. Beamish to the throne room. Mrs. Beamish is sobbing and she asks why nobody sent word of Mayor Beamish's death. And Spittleworth lies by saying that he did indeed send a fake messenger named Nobby Buttons to tell the message to Mrs. Beamish. And Mrs. Beamish does ask how her husband died, and Lord Spittleworth tells her the lie of how the Ickabog attacked the king's party and Beamish wasn't able to protect himself, so that's how he died. Mrs. Beamish asks to see her husband, and Spittleworth says,
Of course.
And Spittleworth, however, also says that
You can't remove the flag covering him because the injuries would be too distressing.
but it is to also hide the gunshot which Spittleworth shot Mayor Beamish. Mrs. Beamish wants to kiss Mayor Beamish for the one last time, and Spittleworth says,
Quite impossible. I'm afraid his face is half gone.
Mrs. Beamish insisted as she knelt down and kissed his hand over and over until it shone with tears, and then her and her son Bert left the blue parlor without another word. So that is the end of chapter 16, so it is quite sad. We know that Spittleworth is a really bad character, and all he cares about is himself, and he's just really good at trickery and tricking the townspeople of Cornucopia. So for chapter 17, the other soldiers were being suspicious about what happened to Beamish, so they wondered where the bullet went and how it was fired. Also, they wondered how come only 4 people saw the monster if it was that big. Spittleworth then went on to retell the whole entire story that he told Mrs. Beamish, but the soldiers were still unsatisfied. One of the soldiers questioned the fake messenger, Nobby Buttons, and Spittleworth questions,
Where did you get that information from?
and the soldier replies by saying that they got it from a maid that served them wine. The guards still continue to question Spittleworth, but eventually he says,
You 3 are under arrest for filthy crime of treason.
even though they did nothing wrong at all. So he says that their penalty is death by a firing squad, which is obviously unreasonable. They don't deserve that whatsoever. And he tells the remaining soldiers that they will get a pay raise, and that he tells them to tell their families exactly what happened in the marshlands. He's rewarding the good soldiers that are following just him, and he's killing the 3 soldiers that don't follow him because of treason, apparently. So chapter 18. Soon the chief advisor, Mr. Herringbone, came and heard about what happened about the Ickabog, and Mayor Beamish dead, and the 3 soldiers being dragged away under the sentence of death. So Spittleworth again had to explain the story to him. Mr. Herringbone waits until Spittleworth had finished speaking, but he says that there will be a proper trial, and the family of Nobby Buttons must be searched for to inform them of his death. And at last, Mayor Beamish's body will be closely examined by the king's doctors, so that they may learn more about the Ickabog that killed him. Spittleworth, then in disbelief, took his sword from the wall and stabbed it right through the chief advisor's belly. The soldiers gasped, but the chief advisor simply knelt down, toppled over, and died. Spittleworth now proclaims that he is the new chief advisor, and he says to Mayor Roach now that the other guards to bury his body of the chief advisor to put him where he won't be found at all. So for chapter 19. Spittleworth now marched off towards the dungeons, and he now intended to shoot the 3 honest soldiers. I'm gonna sneeze. But as he put his hand on the door, a voice spoke out of the darkness which belonged to Lady Eslanda. The maid Hetty was standing there who'd served Spittleworth wine. Hetty had been spying on Spittleworth in the palace, but Lady Eslanda advised her to run away as she might get caught. But now Lady Eslanda was curious about what happened, and she hid herself in the stairs where the 3 soldiers were going to die. She then asks if the chief advisor is anywhere, but Spittleworth says that he is retired, which is a lie. Now Lady Eslanda gets suspicious and says,
So, it will be you who oversees the trial of the soldiers in the 3 dungeons.
and Spittleworth finds out that Lady Eslanda cares about Captain Goodfellow, and they kind of have a crush on each other. So he will target Captain Goodfellow. Lady Eslanda then went back to bed sleepless because of this incident. Spittleworth then had a debate on his hands, whether he would shoot the soldiers without a trial or not. But he knew that Lady Eslanda would blame him for it. So Spittleworth instead decided to turn away from the dungeon door and head back to bed. Chapter 20. The next morning, King Fred was informed that his chief advisor had retired at this critical moment in the country's history. Now, on the third day, they returned from the marshlands. Spittleworth came into the king's private apartment with a sober face and said that Nobby Buttons was nowhere to be found. The king then asks how Nobby looked, and Spittleworth lies by telling that he had freckles and he was the only son of a widowed mother. Spittleworth now suggests that they bury Buttons next to Mayor Beamish, and also suggests that the king have a medal for his outstanding bravery against the deadly Ickabog. Spittleworth is obviously suggesting and trying to get on the king's good side because he did something wrong and he wants the king to believe him. So from his pocket now, Spittleworth pulls out the most gorgeous medal. King Fred is now speechless, and in his mind, he debates with himself whether or not he does deserve this medal, but in the end, he decides that he does. The next day, the king rode with his medal to honor the Ickabog's victims. Now, Mrs. Beamish and Bert were at the funeral home, and they were all really sad for the death of Mayor Beamish. Once they got back to the cottage, Mrs. Beamish threw herself face down on the bed and sobbed. Now, Bert looked at his father's medal right beside the wooden Ickabog that Mr. Dovetail had carved for him long ago. He lifted up the wooden model from its shelf and smashed it into splinters, and threw the remains of the shattered toy and threw them into the fire. As he watched the flames leap higher and higher, he vowed that one day, when he was old enough, he'd hunt down the Ickabog and get revenge on the Ickabog that killed his father. So that is the end of chapters 16 through 20. It does have a very suspenseful ending at the end, and we do figure out that Spittleworth is obviously the bad guy in this, and he's trying to act good, trying to get everybody on his side to hide that he shot Mr. Beamish, but I feel like he should have just went with the flow and just told everybody that he did something wrong instead of having this whole entire commotion. He's the one who's going to be getting in trouble later. I predict that he's going to go to jail and all that, so, but everybody else is just trying to play along with it, and I don't believe they're gonna believe it in the next couple of times. So, but that was all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed another one of these Ickabog summaries. Like I said, I'll have links in the description for where you can read the Ickabog story, my notes, and also my other summaries that I've made, chapters 1 through 5, 6 through 10, and 11 through 15. So if you like this sort of content, tech tutorial, and lifestyle reviews, then please subscribe. I also do these Ickabog summaries too. And also, one last thing, be sure to join my newsletter. It'll be the first link in the description down below. I email you guys every single Monday about organization and productivity tips, so be sure to check that out. And yeah, that's all I had for this video, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.